Hello, this is Lynn Fraser with the Radical Recovery Summit 2023. My conversation with dSimone was delightful. He is a spiritual guide, meditation teacher, transformational speaker, best-selling author, and creator of the SAW method, Somatic Activated Healing, who has dedicated his life to helping others to live in alignment and achieve their highest potential. He is pioneering a spiritually sassy, heart-based healing movement rooted in science-backed, tried-and-true techniques in which joy and authenticity illuminate the path to enlightenment. His infectious enthusiasm for healing is grounded in a deep personal meditation practice. I'm so happy and excited to see dSimone again for the Radical Recovery Summit. Welcome, Sa. I thought maybe we could just start with catching up. You've been doing a lot in the last couple of years since we spoke before. And one of the reasons I really wanted to invite you back is because you do embodied healing. You're working with trauma, all of these things that are very serious. Yeah, so what are you up to and how is it going for you?
Woo! Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm so honored and grateful to be here speaking to this incredibly powerful, radical, audacious community of people who are choosing to, make this radical act of staying lucid and awake and sober through a world that says no, numb, distract,
Right.
as the norm of living. And so I just want to take a moment to applaud all of our audacity and radicalness to choose to do life a little bit more awake, a little bit more lucid, a little bit more intentional.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm coming up to my fifth. I've this year was my 5th year sober. So
Mm-hmm.
5 years, and I think we're at the 7th month now.
Uh-huh.
So it feels amazing. It feels wild and amazing. And also like, oh my God, like I've committed like half a decade to sobriety. So it feels really, really incredible. So the
Mm-hmm.
work that I'm doing now, it's wild to say. And also it's really honest. But I feel like so much of my spiritual journey, I have run away from feeling. And I did these very holy things. I did these things that from the outside looked very holy, and they were beneficial, they were skillful, but there was something missing. There was this kind of fear of being in touch with the feelings, to processing what my body has gone through, processing all the challenging, traumatic, stressful experiences that my body had gone through. I feel like I've sort of built a spiritual life and a life of just kind of like doing my best effort to dissociate and to not be in my body because of fear. Because the moment that I would be asked to come back into my body and to really be present and to just examine and observe what was going on in my body, all the feelings, all the emotions that have not been processed were going to make themselves available and known to me. So I feel like, my dear, I did spend a long time distracting myself in very holy ways, like I said, even with meditation, even with mantra, even with dance, even with running, even with food, even with therapy, even with healers. I did everything I could to distract myself from actually saying, okay, I'm in my body and it's safe to feel what's here, what's present, what needs my care, what needs my attention. And I feel like so many of us have spent so much time with this sort of like top down approach to healing versus this bottom up approach to healing. And the top down, it's kind of like talk your way out of your suffering, intellectualize your way out of your suffering, philosophize your way out of your suffering, conceptualize yourself out of your suffering, reframe, give a new meaning. Where's the silver lining? But all things that are very much about like engage with the intellect and really not embodied practices. However, we forget that all these challenging memories that we have these hardwired feelings in the body. They have these really emotional baggage. It's still with us. And one big thing that the somatic embodied healing work has brought to me is the idea that it's not about engaging with the intellect and engaging with our memories and talking about it and conceptualizing, doing all that stuff as a gateway to engage with what's happening in the body, in the feelings. Instead, entering the body, letting go of the feelings, and then naturally the way we relate to our memories would change, not the other way around. Does that make sense?
It totally does. Yeah. Yeah.
So I spent so much time with this top-down approach, talking, speaking, doing all this stuff to try to like change how I change the emotion in hopes of like letting go of the emotional baggage. But the truth is, like, talking about it, conceptualizing about it, reframing, all this like talking approach wasn't actually doing the job that I needed, which is to actually remove the emotional baggage up and out of my body in order for the memories to not have power over me anymore,
Right.
So through this work, I was like, okay, cool. I finally understand what's missing. It's me actually going into the bottom up approach, which is engaging with the feelings, engage with the emotional residue of the trauma, the emotional residue from the past experiences. And by engaging with it long enough, with intentionality, with the moves, with the breath, with all the practices that I've been teaching for years, but just in a different way, in a deeper way, I should say, then the memories would lose power. Not that they would be gone, but they wouldn't have the emotional charge. They wouldn't set me off in an inflammatory spiral of more shame, more guilt, more blame, more all that stuff. So the somatic work has reminded me of two really important qualities of healing, which is our ability to concentrate and our ability to observe. So with meditation, I'm concentrating and also observing and doing, but are we observing life and our emotions on the like ongoing? I feel like oftentimes I've just focused on concentrating my mind and not in the next stage of like, now can I observe what's happening in my body? Can I observe the feelings, the sensations and emotion without pathologizing, without adding new meaning, without creating new stories? And that's the embodied piece for me that was missing. It's like, can I be with these feelings? Can I observe them long enough for me to, embrace the goddess of impermanence, as I like to call, that is working her dark, twisted, deranged magic in all of life, where the feelings are actually going to come up and move as we are, bringing our awareness to the feelings in the body. Something magical happens. We are the warmth of our awareness is composing the feelings. So then all of a sudden they can come up and make the way out of our systems, But in order for us to be able to observe what's happening in our bodies, we need to have a concentration. And without concentration, when we're observing what's happening in the body, what happens? We are bringing our past to the feelings. We're bringing our stories, all of our fears, all of our insecurities to that feeling in the body. So nothing's happening. We're just becoming more and more confused. I just kind of went into it way full power. Let me know if this is landing for you, Lynn.
It is. So we know that trauma is stored in the body with associated memories and feelings. So what you're doing is, instead of starting with the memories and feelings, you're starting with the sensations and energy.
Exactly. And realizing that unless we have the tools and the time to process everything that's happened in our life in a timely manner, or everything that's happening right now in a timely manner, it will leave us with a emotional residue. It will become stored in our bodies, and it will, the body keeps the score. You have him as part of your summit for a reason,
Yeah.
And so through this work, it's become very evident to me that I had so much that was unprocessed, but I had done a great job at doing the holy practices and distracting myself from actually feeling, So a lot of this work that I'm doing now is just training people to just be in their bodies. It's literally the basis of it. It's like the main thing that I teach people and I speak about is be in your body and track what's going on in your body. As you're walking, as you're talking, as you're in the bathroom, as you are, doing whatever it may be. What are the sensations, feelings, and emotions that are happening in your body? Can you drop the stories and can you be with the feelings? And every time you're engaging with the feelings with this concentrated mind, you're actually able to notice that feelings don't last for as long as we say that they do. They don't make a home the same ways that we say that they do. From one aspect, they do because we're giving an entire narrative, an entire story. So then our body, our system, our feelings are then, by us giving a new narrative and a new meaning to that feeling, pathologizing that feeling, then we're calling upon new feelings and new stories. And then we're just creating this like rabbit hole of depression and anxiety. And a big thing for me was like the rabbit hole of addiction. Every time I felt the urge in my body, every time I felt an uncomfortable feeling in my body, it was like the immediate thing I needed to do was that one thing. I needed to have a drink, or I needed to have a smoke, or I needed to do that one thing in order for me to feel the relief. I think Pema Chodron speaks about this, and I'm paraphrasing one of her quotes, but she says, all of our problems in the world, from alcoholism to character assassination, to abuse, to assault, all that stuff, she says, it all traces back to our inability to be with discomfort in the body. That quote for me became like the guiding light of my work and my life, because I realized that I had also become prolific at distracting myself from unpleasant feelings in the body, even though the ways that I was distracting myself with were very holy, were very spiritual, were very beneficial. They actually have positive consequences. But I wasn't actually arriving at the place of somatic awareness, of true, genuine mindfulness of what is happening in my body at any given moment, And can I be with discomfort? And also through this work, you realize that so much of how we feel in the present moment has nothing to do with the present moment. We are, what's coming up for us, it's oftentimes historical. Oftentimes it is, we're living like a museum. We're processing things that we haven't processed. And the present moment is showing us, hey, time to take care of this thing that you haven't taken care of for 15, 20, 30, God knows how many years, Is this making sense?
It does. So I wanted to ask you a question about meditation. So
Please.
In meditation, one of the things we do is develop the ability to concentrate and to be the objective witness. So how do you move from that? And, mostly what we're objectively witnessing is thoughts in our mind. And usually then we'll get caught in a train of thought and then we'll come back to witnessing. So do you do meditation in that way still?
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, but yes, my dear, 100%. So part of the practice these days is bringing both of the traditional practices, shamatha and vipassana. So we are developing with shamatha the concentration, and with vipassana the ability to observe. So I will start my practice every day, Lynn, like this. I will be concentrating on the feeling of the breath, and I'll get caught up in that one story about the one thing, come back, breath. Right. Story, breath in, breath out, story, breath in, breath out. And then when I notice that I have arrived at a more relaxed state, when I notice that my mind isn't so wildly chaotic and agitated anymore, then I shift the focus from engage with the thinking process and now engage with the feelings, emotions, sensations that are in the body. This is when the concentration leads to observation. So for somatic body-based healing, which I believe to be the genuine path to true liberation, we have to concentrate our minds first in that very traditional style of meditation. And then from that, we're then observing, okay, cool. Like even right now in this moment, I notice there's tension in my neck in two places, kind of up here on the left and kind of down here on the right. And then as I start to scan my body, I notice that there's a little bit of tension in the lower left area of my belly, and that's usually the point of the anxiety. And that anxiety is usually like something bad's going to happen. That little feeling, it's always historically hardwired for me with the narrative of like, oh, you're doing something wrong. You're not doing enough. Something bad's going to happen. But now what I'm doing in this moment, even as I'm talking to you, I'm tending to that feeling with a part of my awareness. And a part of my awareness, I'm talking to you, a part of my awareness, I'm bringing to that feeling and witnessing it and being with it. And then slowly, I can notice like, it didn't change for the better. It actually became worse now. So I'm noticing it that it's more alive, more evident. And then this is the work. Is to notice when we're pathologizing, adding new meaning, adding new stories to every sensation, every feeling, every emotion, especially the difficult ones, especially the challenging ones, especially the heavy ones. And then through this process of observing without the stories, of dropping the stories and being with the feelings, we are able to witness the goddess of impermanence working her magic where everything changes. We just have to be present to notice the changing nature of life, you know? And that's been like transformational for me. Like I am doing whatever it may be, and a little buzzing, tingling, tense sensation arrives in my body, and I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna go to the fridge. I'm not gonna go to the social media. I'm not gonna go do this and that. Distract myself in any way. And even sometimes I will distract myself, but I have given myself the radical vow of pause, go into the body, touch that feeling, that sensation, that emotion in the body, even for just one moment. Can I bring the warmth of my awareness to that sensation, emotion, or feeling in the body, even for just one moment? And then something always happens. There's always something that I witness happening, you know?
You have a lot of thoughts coming to your mind still?
100%. And with my path of recovery, these days, it isn't so much about like drugs or alcohol, but it's like if you had a cigarette, the sensation would be gone. If you had a cookie, the sensation would be gone. If you drink a Diet Coke, the sensation would be gone. If you watch a little Netflix, the sensation would be gone. Why don't you go eat this thing? Why don't you order a cheeseburger and some fries? They put a lot of mayo on it. That's going to soothe you. This feeling will go away. And the thing about it is it will go away, but not away. It will go away, stored in there somewhere in the little corners of our body, you know? It kind of goes back to that quote that I'm paraphrasing from Carl Jung that he says, we can't become enlightened by visualizing ourselves filled with light, but by making the darkness conscious, by bringing our darkness into the light, something to that degree. That quote from Pema and this quote from Carl Jung, I really have become the guiding force because every time I won't look at the darkness, which is the challenging feelings in my body, but I will engage with the stories, they perpetuate. It perpetuates, it comes out in different ways. And then next thing you know, that very known saying, if it's hysterical, it's historical. That's it. Because the more we suppress the feelings, honey, at some point, the smallest things can happen. You know, Lynn, we may be online to get a coffee and someone bumps into us and they bumped into you. They literally brush shoulders with you. And then all of a sudden, the rage monster comes out, you know, and you're literally bringing out this like hysterical aspect of yourself onto someone. And it literally has nothing to do with that experience, you know? And that's what we're trying to do with the somatic embodied work is tending and being within the body to meet all aspects of ourselves that we haven't met, processing the unprocessed, you know, and really engaging with our emotions as they come up. As they come up. I think that's the key. It's with somatic embodied work is, and really the basis of mindfulness at a very active level, it's that we are experiencing it, being with it as they arise. And then we're not engaging with the stories so much. I'm not a master at it, but honey, you better believe that these days I am tracking what's happening in my body. I'm very aware of when I'm holding tension, when I'm giving the tension in the body, a narrative. And when I give it a narrative, you better believe the emotional pain then becomes a physical pain. And then that leads to like stomach issues, leads to breakouts, to headaches and, you know, psychological disorders, you know, can't concentrate, depressive episodes, addictive tendencies creep back in and all the things that we know so well, you know.
So that point at which you're paying attention to the sensation and then thoughts come up, maybe traumatic memories, something is associated with that. What do you do then at that point? Because people are so reluctant to go into the sensations because of the memories that are going to come up. They're afraid they're going to be flooded so can you talk a little bit more about that?
Exactly. Thank you for that brilliant question, Lynn. That's exactly it. We are afraid of touching the sensations, the feelings and emotion about it because we are afraid to be flooded with the traumatic memories, First thing I do is awareness. If like where in your body you feel the emotion sensation, get out of the stories. It's going to feel really hard to stop engaging with the story, stop talking back to the stories. One thing I keep saying to people is big story in the mind, big feeling in the body. Big story in the mind, big feeling in the body. And that reminds you that anytime you're caught up in a big story, there's a big feeling that is require you to actually engage and be with. Thoughts do not require a reaction from you, a response from you. They don't require you to talk back to them. But your feelings, if you're going to walk the path of liberation, your feelings do require a response from you. And the first way to respond to a feeling is by bringing your awareness to it. Where in the body do you notice? And you may just do with your inner eye, and you may bring your awareness to that, to your, a place in your thigh, a place in your belly, in your chest, in your throat, in your back, whatever it may be. Or you can do it with your hands. I think when people at the beginning of self-awareness, of somatic awareness practice, I say, bring your hand to that place and just like notice where it is. And just, bring all of your attention there. Bring all of your attention there. And then when the emotion is really sticky, because oftentimes when we're not doing the daily somatic awareness, the daily releasing work, and letting go work, they're very sticky. And we're like, wow, I brought my awareness to this feeling and nothing happened, And then when the moves come up, the somatic movement language that we've come up with comes into the practice, And we partner a move with the breath. And when you partner the move with the breath, then you will notice a change taking place, So you do the move with the breath and then you stop, awareness again. Move with that affirmation, stop, awareness again. So the rhythm of the work is awareness of what's happening. Okay, cool, I notice it's sticky. Okay, then you practice this move with the breath. Stop, self-awareness. Where is it? Has it moved? Has it gone from the neck to the belly now? Okay, cool. Drop the stories, be with the feeling. Drop the stories, be with the feeling. And then the next stage, movement with affirmation. And then full stop. And then awareness of it again. Does that make sense? That's how the mathematical equation that we have come up with that has shown to work for people when we are locked into these addictive states or locked into a very sort of destructive mindset and approach towards ourselves and towards other people.
So can you give us some examples of movements? Like, do you have certain movements for certain areas of the body? Or how does that work?
Moves. Yeah, great question. So certain moves, the way that we have structured this, it's this. The Science Center for Greater Good. They follow me on Instagram. I'm so grateful, but I'm like spacey. I talk about them so often. It's an incredible center. It's an incredible foundation out of Berkeley University. They've come up with a research that shows that we have fundamentally, basically, all humans experience 27 emotions. And what we have done in the somatic activated healing method, we have shortened them into 20. So we have come up with moves, each move for each emotion, So we have 10 shadow emotions and 10 light emotions, And the shadow is not that they're bad and the light is that they're good. It's that the shadow ones are a little bit more textured. They are a little bit more tense. They are a little bit more sticky. And the light ones are more associated conceptually with positive thinking and inspiration and creativity. But the goal is that at some point you're able to arrive at looking at all emotions in your inner world through a non-dual perspective, right? So I'm only giving you a little bit of background so you kind of see where we're going. So I want to show you two moves that are associated with shame and associated with craving, which oftentimes I speak about the craving in places like this as the craving is that same feeling of addiction. Like, I need to have it this way. Unless I have it this way, I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to be stuck and, like that. So I'm going to show you the shame and I'm going to show you the addiction or the craving move, okay? So you will need a little bit of space. The way that this is going to work, two ways of practicing the shame move, which for me, I believe that shame is kind of the driving force for me was for my addiction, really feeling this sense that like there was something fundamentally wrong with me. And by becoming sober, I arrived at a place of like, hey, I'm actually, there isn't something fundamentally wrong with me. society and people around me have told me that because I'm queer, I am bad or broken. And then that led to a whole train of events of me thinking about myself and the world in a really twisted way. Anyways, shame, the move for shame. From the side, it will look like this. You're invited to practice upright or with a little bit of the chair pose squat. And the idea is that you're breathing in through the nose, and as you come up, you're breathing out through the mouth. So it's breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And you practice in 3 speeds, either the peaceful speed, the natural, or the passionate. And depending where you're at in the state of chaos or tension that you're in, then I invite people to practice the passionate. I oftentimes really need the passionate, to really move it up and out. So it will look like this. And the audible exhale is very important. That you're breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. As you're bringing your hands, as your hands are touching your thighs, your hips, your belly, your chest, and you're coming up, the important thing that you're doing, somatic awareness, what is happening in the body as you're doing this practice. Really feeling the touch of your hand. With this move and all the moves, what's really important to do, Lynn, is that you arrive at a point where you're actually able to close your eyes. Practice with the eyes closed, for a few moments. And I invite people to practice. The way that the moves would work would be become aware, strong posture, still. And in this complete stillness, what happens is you're going to notice when you're resisting the urge to do whatever it may be that's like anxiety style, when you become completely still, the chaos, the tension, the bubbling chaos that's inside of us will start to make itself known to you. And when you're there, you're aware, oh, wow, okay, I noticed that's here, So with the practice of stillness, the chaos will make itself known to you. And then you go into the practice. Begin slow. So this is one move. The other move, this is the move for the craving or the addiction, the feeling of addiction. This move that I just showed was for shame. This one's for addiction. So you're going to bring your hands into sort of a warrior. I don't usually give a side to people because you can do it from the side on the left side of your body or the right, doesn't matter. But this is what we want with the hand. It's like that. So right hand into the left like this. And then you're going to take a deep breath in here. Strong stance, powerful warrior-like stance, right? So you're going to take a deep breath in here. One more deep breath in here. Turn. One deep breath in here. And then H8, out like that. So when you're practicing peacefully, it will be natural. And passionate will be This is the only move in our kinetic movement language that has 3 breaths in and 1 breath out. Mm-hmm. Practicing, you immediately start to notice a difference. Like you're immediately like, oh wow, I feel the quality of my breath has changed. I feel like my inner world there's pretty much in this passing moment, there's no tension. My mind is super sharp, super present. And the way to also, what you can also do with this move is you can go breath in, and then H8, come into a squat, come into a light squat, like a chair pose. We know that so much of our emotion is stored in our hip area. So for both of the moves, invitation to practice either standing or to kind of, see if you can sink in a little bit. Anytime you're inviting some movement into here, you're activating, the unprocessed. And so same thing for this one. It will be like strong stance. And the next part of the process is to partner the moves with an affirmation. one of the affirmations is that I use for the shame is, I've decided that I am good enough. I've decided that I am good enough. So you're moving with the move and with the affirmation. You're partnering the move with affirmation. And a one that's really good for the addiction is, my past has no power over me. My past has no power over me. So you're touching, these three areas in your upper body, and you're saying, my past has no power over me, or all of my problems have a solution. Whatever affirmation you want, it's really important that when you do the breath with the move, and then you come inside, and you will notice that your inner world has changed. The stickiness of the emotions have changed. They have passed. They have let go a little bit. And it's in that moment when you add a move with an affirmation, you're creating this incredible new memory, And then every time you practice the move, you start to call upon a new story for yourself. You start to call upon a new direction for your mind to go. Does that make sense?
It does. And so this is coming, I love that it's in your body, because then it's not a reframe, it's not positive thinking, it's something that you're feeling in your body. And with shame, especially, shame has to be the root of most addiction too. And shame is something that we don't want to be around. We want to get rid of it. And it's also got a lot of stories. There's a lot of stories around the shame. Yeah.
Massive stories. For me, my stories of shame started with in the sort of Judeo-Christian kind of upbringing world where being gay is bad. So then you immediately start to internalize that who I am fundamentally is bad. And then you go out into the world and you're like, well, if I'm a bad person, like you have this sense that something's fundamentally wrong with you. And then you seek drugs and alcohol to self-soothe and to distract and to feel like you are relaxed for God's sake for the first time, And then it becomes even worse when we make mistakes. We make small mistakes or big mistakes. And if I'm making a mistake and I already think I'm a bad person, then I have this factual evidence that if I am a mistake, then I'm constantly committing mistakes. So if I'm constantly making mistakes because I am a mistake, then I shouldn't be here. And that was my train of thought. Then it would lead to suicidal ideation and all kinds of destructive behavior. And one thing I've realized too, and through this process, is that yes, we do have to change our behavior. We do have to stop reaching for the drugs and alcohol. However, oftentimes stopping the behavior right away, for me, in my personal experience, how it was, very hard, also super possible, but very hard. What I've noticed with people who are starting their journey of lucidity, of wakefulness, of liberation, is that what if you started to implement some of these practices of recognizing your benevolence, recognizing your innate goodness? Like, what would happen if you truly realize that you're innately good, that no self-destructive behavior can ever punish you enough into becoming a good person? That's how I've interpreted self-destructive behavior, is that we do these behaviors because it's our way of punishing ourselves because we're not good. So we need to be punished. And if I punish myself to the same amount that I perceive myself to be bad, then I could be course corrected into being good. But what if there was like this revolutionary, miraculous moment that we realize that we are innately benevolent, good beings, no matter what we've done, no matter what was done to us, that nothing that we have done or was done to us can ever touch that part of us, that basic goodness that the Buddha spoke about, So through this work, some of the affirmations, it's just a reminder of our innate benevolence, of our innate goodness. So you're doing the movement with the breath and you're doing the move with the affirmation. You will, and I invite you to do it when the moment of the trigger is there to reach for the culprit. And to do the move of the craving, do the move for shame, do it for 5 minutes and notice what would happen. You know, you will have a different perspective on yourself and on other people. However, I do know how hard it is to choose to be in our bodies when we are triggered, when we are in a state of craving. It's really difficult to want to rest in our bodies. We are so conditioned, colonized, trained, habituated to distract, so to choose to be in our bodies, it's a really, really hard call. And one thing is just coming up for me that it's kind of unrelated, but totally related, is you don't need to be punished, like punishing yourself and seeking to be punished will never set you free. We all need restoration. The industrial prison complex is not reawaken the benevolence in people. The industrial prison complex is not setting people free. They are perpetuating a cycle of pain because the people who are in charge are unwilling to look at their own pain. So they're seeking to just perpetuate this narrative of pain. And here we are operating with all these punishing narratives out there. And of course, then in here, So I want to remind us all that we must stop approaching ourselves and each other with a punitive approach. We have to be advocating for restorative justice for ourselves and for other people. And notice how much of the time we are actually punishing each other. I notice how I do it to my boyfriend. I notice how I do it to my parents, to my friends. And it's in the most twisted, deranged, but subtle ways that I do it. I withdraw my love. I won't make eye contact. I won't make a cup of coffee when I'm making myself one. I won't serve his plate, or I won't return a call. We have this twisted way of punishing. And that punishment is tied to this idea that if I punish them, they're going to become good people, So we have to refrain from believing that punishment leads to goodness. Restoration leads to goodness. And this applies to you too. When the shame is active, you believe that you have to be punished because if you're punished enough, you're going to become a good person. No, stop. You are innately benevolent. You are innately good at the base of your being. I went in a little bit of a rant there. I'm sorry. I just felt like it was coming through necessary to say it.
No, that's great. So this thing about shame and the emotions, the sensations in the body, do you work with inner child, younger self? Is that part of the work that you do?
It kind of activates the inner child, the younger self, because the work is fun. Because I've decided to make healing fun. I was determined to get out of this sort of zombie Zen approach. And I decided that we can play music really loud, and we can practice being aware to be radically in our bodies while breathing and while chanting these affirmations, and by beautiful, comfortable clothes, and then in a beautiful environment with gorgeous loud music. So I think we do activate the inner child. For me, the inner child work has been kind of like one thing I've done in this work is like I will look at a photo of my younger self and I will, just kind of like visit him in meditation, like engage with the photo for a while, get like a really clear picture, get in all the details, and then close my eyes and then have a conversation with my younger self in my mind. But no, this is kind of as far as it goes for me.
There's something about what you do. You are fun and you bring so much fun to it. And that might be kind of difficult for people to believe that you can actually heal while you're having fun. And I've been doing a shaking and dancing practice for the last couple of years, inspired by Dr. James Gordon. And it was the first time in a long time I'd actually danced. And it is so much fun and it creates so much energy and it feels good. And every single time we do it, I do a practice with everybody on Saturday mornings. Every single time people say, wow, I feel so much different. So it's so exciting that you're kind of tapping into that and helping people with that.
I think what people see in me is in them too. I think we always have to remember that our perspective is built on our it's literally like we're able to see the benevolence and goodness in other people and inspiration and fun in other people, because we have that in ourselves too. So I think my job is just to be a reminder that we all have that capacity, and that healing can be fun, and to remember that, like, look at the greatest mystics in life. Some of them were really somber and really sort of like namaste and really like strict in that way. But look at His Holiness Dalai Lama, like
Hmm.
laughing and smiling so much. Look at, he passed, but Desmond Tutu, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, laughing so much. There's so many great saints and sages and mystics who, it's really like laughter and joy and playfulness. It's so much the pathway to liberation, and I
Hmm.
think body and breathing with the body and letting go of emotions, it opens our perspective. When you're actually able to be in your body and know and be with the emotions in the body and notice it changing, notice it moving and transforming, your perspective of yourself and what you thought you can be, or yourself in the world, it opens up. The rigidity that you had changes. The tension, when you release tension from the body, the mind also releases the tension, and all of a sudden you feel like everything's possible. That realm of possibility is the realm of fun, is the realm of playfulness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So right now, the last year especially, I've seen a lot of people concentrating on resting. Like people are exhausted. The pandemic, all of the polarization. So this kind of resting, we still get the same result if we feel rested, only it's not through a still body, it's through actual moving.
Yeah, there's many ways of resting, right? I think it's what we need to realize. I think rest, in my vocabulary, it's anything that we are resisting the narrative of multitasking and producing. So anytime I'm saying I'm resting, I may be doing a somatic practice of music really loud and not at sleep, eyes closed. I'm actually doing something. So anytime we're pushing up against the narrative that we should be producing, we should be working, and that we don't have time to heal. We don't have, like all this sort of multitasking, sort of a, byproduct of this culture of more is better. Anytime we say no, and we practice being in our bodies, we practice tracking what's going on in our bodies, we are resting.
And relieving that tension it takes a lot of energy to suppress, especially in our body. Yeah.
But also a lot of energy to do the work too. I say to people all the time, Lynn, it's like, it's really hard, but it's really simple. It's really hard, but it's very simple.
Oh, that's so true. So you are busy. You're very busy. You're all over the internet. You've got classes, you've got training. Can you tell us a little bit about the trainings that you're doing? I know you have one that's upcoming around the time the summit airs.
Yes, thank you for asking me about that. So it's the training is somatic activated healing, or also known as the SA method. So it's training people in 9 weeks in how to actually lead this practice. Really learning the ins and outs of the movements, of the breath, of the meditations, of the affirmations. All four practices that are combined to create this movement language. And essentially, what people will master through the training is how to guide other people to feel safe in their bodies and process their emotions, their present experience, and the unprocessed experiences, emotional experiences that are still stored in their bodies. And it's 9 weeks. It's a lot of work, because I am really training people, you know, how to genuinely help people in a really solid, trauma informed way. And because it could be kind of fun and playful, and people have a lot of like quick results from this practice. So it can kind of boost someone's side of like, self esteem, and sometimes not in a good way, sometimes in a sort of a grandiose way. So I'm really training people in really understanding for the first half of the training to look at their minds, look at their bodies, look at their stories, look at, how they've lived. And then the second half on, really starting to practice how to care for other people. So it's really, foundationally trained first and foremost for people to help themselves transform themselves, and then use that transformation as the backbone for them to transform other people. So one other thing I want to say about the training is I've invited great friends of mine to speak in the training too. These are people who have a clinical understanding of therapy, of somatic practice. And, so it's 50 plus hours of pre-recorded lessons, and then about 9 live classes with me, which are about 2 hours each a week. Check it out. It's samethod.com, and all the details are there. What else can I say about it? Oh my God, there's so much I could say about it. Essentially, if you're looking for a modern, effective, fun way to help yourself transform and heal, and you're looking to bring that into the lives of other people too, then check it out, and let's do it. It's profound because I do bring my mysticism into the place. I bring a deep foundational understanding of ourselves and life through a Buddhist background. And a lot of the stuff I don't really talk about outside of sometimes the podcast, sometimes in conversations like this, but not on social media. So people are coming to the training to really practice in mysticism and truly understanding themselves and the world through a very deep new way of relating and a new way of seeing themselves in reality. It's profound. We just graduated 100 people, and now we're opening it up again. And, people are saying that training has changed their lives, has given meaning to their lives. And I'm just so grateful. I'm kind of following what people are saying, I'm just people are asking for this. And I was like, okay, fine, let's do it. It's so much work for me to put it together. It's wild. But I said, yes, I'm doing it. So check it out. If you're feeling called and you're enjoying, some of the things I'm sharing here, check it out, samethod.com. And thanks for asking about that. That's very generous of you, Lynn. Thank you very much.
Oh, I've had a look at your program a couple of times and very attracted to it. And one of the reasons is that I know you a little bit more than what I see on social media. So I know that you have a depth and a serious meditation practice. Mm-hmm. And that's the foundation. So it's all fun and movement and all of those things, but we're always coming back to awareness. And that awareness of our own basic goodness is really at the core of your program.
Yes, say it. Oh my God. Thank you. That's really what it is, I wouldn't be able to do any of this if I didn't have the concentration through all these years of practice, and the daily sits. And I think that then led me to observe my inner world in a different way. And then that's when the movement and the breath and affirmations kind of morphed and created itself. And it was really through the call of Deepak Chopra's team that kind of propelled me into doing it. I wasn't really looking to start something new and really go into an entire other body of work, but it saved my life and it was exactly what I needed. But it was, Deepak Chopra's team that said, hey, this movement thing that you're putting on social media, we love it. What is it? Coming to the office, let's talk about it. And I was like, interesting. What is it? Oh, I see what it is. It's because I'm meditating, I'm breathing, I'm chanting these mantras, and then I'm dancing. The combination of these four practices, what people are seeing, and that's the impact that it's having. Okay, cool. Let me study, and then I spent time just really understanding what it is that I'm actually doing, and then we created this whole sequencing that's now become our approach to transformation.
Right. So you have a quote that I loved. It's "Be a living permission slip." How did that come about? Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I feel like it ties back to, spiritually sassy and me, coming alive. I think the permission slip was, living as a permission slip, being a permission slip. I think it kind of goes back to when I was growing up. Everyone around me said, don't walk like this, don't talk like this, don't dress like this, don't do all this stuff because that's too gay, and you're not gay, and you shouldn't be gay, and being gay is bad. So don't do any of these things associated with being gay. So what did I do? I immediately learned all the ways to pass as straight or pass as normal, how horrific that is to say.
Yeah.
So I sort of did all these things. I was conditioned and had to sort of rehearse this new way of living because the way I was fundamentally wasn't safe. It wasn't allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So that, and then as I moved out of the house and started to, experiment and do all kinds of wild things, then I started to really let go of that conditioning, and I dressed how I wanted, talk how I wanted, walked how I wanted, did all the things how I wanted, how it was like more fundamentally congruent with who I am at the base of my being. And then fast forward to, okay, so that happened in my early childhood, teen years, and then fast forward to Sa living in and out of monasteries in India, Nepal, Indonesia, Thailand, and another wave of this came back. You can't be bold, loud, flamboyant, fashionable, funny. It's not spiritual. So you shouldn't do any of this stuff. You should really not dress like this. Don't talk like this. Don't eat that. Don't talk to these people. Don't watch this. Don't. It was just so many ways that was so similar to the previous iteration of that, And then at some point, I was like, interesting. I feel like I'm trying to be like the students, and I'm not trying to be like the guru. I'm not trying to be like the teacher. I'm not trying to be like the master. I'm not trying to actually be fully inspired by the saint themselves. I'm trying to be like, the students who are all very, really holy and very, very seriously holy people, very serious spiritual practitioners. That's what I thought. I thought that the more I was like them, very serious, very somber, very zombie-like, the more I was becoming free, the more liberated I was. Because I thought that my ways of being, bold, loud, free, uninhibited, I thought that those ways were bad from my understanding of spirituality, right?
Right.
And then I had this rare honor of talking to Jitsuma Tenzin Palmo. She spent 12 years in a cave, a prolific yogi. And I'm there while I'm doing research for my book, and I'm talking to all these spiritually sassy at that point, and talking to all these different mystics and yogis and sages and all the things. And I have the opportunity of talking to her, and I was explaining to her kind of this, dissonance that I'm experiencing. And to a degree, I'm paraphrasing what she said, and this is kind of my interpretation of the meaning. She said something like to that effect of you're here to teach joy. You're here to bring joy back into the space. And I was like, you're right. That's what I'm here to do, So that woke me up, Lynn. That woke me up. And then I realized that me being a permission slip is not that I'm neglecting, rejecting, or bypassing the fact that trauma is a part of life. No, it's just that I'm actually trying to really live by the values of my tradition, which is to experience the pain, but not dwell or create suffering, and that choice of, this is what the Buddha put forth, right? Pain is inevitable, suffering is a choice. I actually get to make a radical choice to normalize the fact that pain is a fact of life, and it's just an aspect of the human experience. Being human is painful, but can we experience the pain and the personal pain, the collective pain, and can I bring some joy, some playfulness, some lightheartedness into the space? Because I've realized that with all these years of practice, a quality that's become very evident to me is playfulness, is being lighthearted. It's not taking things for too personal, and also not taking things, for granted. So it's become very evident that being a permission slip is recognizing the paradox that pain is a fact, and pain is part of life, and being human is painful, but simultaneously, can we be a bright light for other people? Can we, in our smile, in the way we walk, in the way we talk, in the way we practice, the way we exist, can we be a permission slip to people to recognize that they are benevolent beings, that they have goodness at the base of their being, that they can experience pain without suffering, that we can kind of go to that place. So being a permission slip is there's many layers of understanding to it. And at at the end of the day, it's having the audacity to swim up against the stream. It's having the audacity to, sit with your feelings. It's having the audacity to be sober. It's having the audacity to make these radical choices that are so different from what everybody else is telling us to do. And in that process, we are non-verbally communicating to other people that it's safe to be themselves, that it's safe to say no, that it's safe to put the bottle down, that it's safe to not engage in destructive behavior. Non-verbally, that's what I've noticed. It's that we become, I do a lot of talking, and sometimes I make sense. Sometimes I don't make any sense. Sometimes I sound poetic. Sometimes I sound philosophical. Sometimes I sound really good. Sometimes I sound completely incoherent, whatever. But I do a lot of talking. But what I also notice is that when I'm not speaking, can I be of benefit to other people? When I'm not saying a word, when I'm not doing anything, can I just, really emanate peace and kindness and sweetness? And that's when the work is really genuinely working, So being a permission slip is observing that. What's our presence communicating about us,
Well, and that what you communicate is joy, and it's also your own very deep knowing of your own goodness. And that deep awareness is part of what you transmit in your work. So thank you so much for this conversation and for being part of this.
Thank you, Lynn, for putting this on and inviting me. I'm so honored and so grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to remind everybody that it's a daily choice to practice. It's a daily choice. And one thing that I just want to leave us with too, it's like practice for those that couldn't practice. Do it for them. Do it for grandma. Do it for uncle. Do it for that sibling. Do it for that person, or the ones who are begging for their lives right now and in a hospital bed or in a facility. Like, do it for them. Think about the interdependence of all of life. We don't exist in this isolation and separation is an illusion. Really do it for them. The days that you don't want to do it, just like say it in your mind, I'm practicing for you too. I'm doing this for all people. I'm doing this for all beings. That really helps me, So thank you very much.
Thank you for watching the Radical Recovery Summit 2023. To watch more of the interviews and the clips, and to share with your friends, please go to radicalrecoverysummit.com.